The wind was relentless that night. It howled through the jagged rocks of the Arizona hills, rattling the windows of my cabin like 1,000 unseen hands trying to get in. The fire crackled low in the hearth, casting long shadows that stretched across the worn wood floors. The chill from the storm outside seeped in, but it wasn't the cold that made my bones ache. It was the weight of the past, creeping back in ways I couldn't escape. I'd been running for 6 years. 6 long years of living with a false name, a stolen life. Riley Red Callahan wasn't the man I was born to be. No, I used to be someone else, a man with a future, a man with a family. Now I was just a ghost, a shadow. And I knew deep down that the law would catch up to me sooner or later. But I never expected her. I'd seen danger many times in my life, but never like this. The moon hung low, casting a pale light over the land outside, and I could feel it. There was something in the air, a warning, a threat. I didn't know what it was, but my instincts, honed over years of being chased and hunted, screamed that I wasn't alone. I moved toward the door, my hand instinctively brushing the Colt .45 holstered at my side. My fingers tightened around the grip as I cracked the door open. The storm outside swirled, the wind kicking up the dust of the desert floor, but nothing stood in the shadows. Nothing moved. I stepped back into the dim light of the cabin, keeping the door partially open to listen. That's when I heard it, a faint creak, the unmistakable sound of a footstep on wood. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end, and I wasn't sure whether to raise my gun or run. But before I could make up my mind, she stepped into the room. I froze. Her silhouette was framed by the dim light from the oil lamp. Her figure was slim, tall, her hair dark as midnight and flowing like a river down her back. The moment I saw her face, I knew exactly who she was. Lena West, Sheriff Esquez's daughter. The one woman in all of Arizona who could ruin me with a single word. She stood there, watching me with a look that made my chest tighten. It wasn't fear in her eyes, nor was it the kind of hatred one would expect from a woman whose father I had crossed. No, it was something deeper. Something ... complicated. "I knew you'd be here," she said, her voice low, almost musical, but sharp enough to send a shiver down my spine. "Elena," I rasped, my throat dry. "What the hell are you doing here?" Her lips parted slightly as she stepped closer, the moonlight catching her features. "Riley Callahan? Or should I say Red?" she asked, a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth, though her eyes betrayed the tension that simmered beneath the surface. That name, Red, it hadn't been spoken aloud in so long, I almost didn't recognize it. I swallowed hard, stepping back toward the fire. The warmth of the flame was a poor substitute for the heat flooding my body at the sight of her. "You shouldn't be here," I muttered, my voice ragged. She tilted her head, eyes never leaving mine. "You're right," she said softly, stepping into the light. "But I've been looking for you, and I couldn't let you hide forever." My heart skipped a beat. There was a reason I'd been running for so long. Elena West was the one woman I couldn't afford to have in my life. The sheriff's daughter, pure, untouchable, everything I could never have. Her father's power and influence ran deep, and one word from her could end me. "You've been looking for me?" I asked, though the question was more of a demand. I wanted to know why she'd risked everything to come here. Why she'd found me when I'd worked so damn hard to stay invisible. "I need your help," she said, her voice steady, but with an undercurrent of something. "Dangerous. My father plans to hang you at sunrise." I froze. The weight of her words hit me like a bullet to the chest. Sheriff Vasquez had always been a hard man. But this was personal. He had a vendetta against me that ran deeper than anything I could have imagined. "Sunrise?" I repeated, barely able to keep the shock from my voice. "You're telling me he's coming for me?" Elena nodded, her eyes narrowing as she stepped closer. "He's been looking for you for months. And now, it's come to this," pressing my back against the wall. "You don't understand. I'm not the man you think I am. I've made too many mistakes. If your father catches me," she cut me off, her voice low and intense. "I know exactly who you are, Riley. I know what you did. But I also know what's at stake now. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here because... ... because I need you to help me stop this. I stared at her, trying to make sense of the words she was saying. Stop what? You're the sheriff's daughter, Elena. You're telling me to fight your father? That's insane. I'm not asking you to fight him, she said, her voice steady, though there was a fire in her eyes that matched the one burning in my chest. I'm asking you to run. To leave this town, this life, behind. The silence stretched between us, thick with tension. I could feel the weight of her gaze, the heat of her body just a few feet away, the way my pulse raced in her presence. Why? I asked, barely able to get the word out. Why would you risk everything for me? I'm just an outlaw, a man with a death sentence hanging over his head. Because I remember what you did for me, she whispered, taking a step closer. Because you saved my life. And because I believe in you, Riley, even if you don't believe in yourself. Her words hit me like a slap to the face. I had spent so long running, hiding from my past, that I had forgotten what it meant to have someone believe in me. I can't go back, I said, my voice low and full of regret. I can't be the man your father would want me to be. Her lips quirked up into a small, sad smile. You don't have to be. Just be the man I know you can be. The man who saved me that day on the road. I could feel her hand brushing against mine as she reached out, her touch light, but enough to send a jolt through me. I wanted to pull away, but I couldn't. Something in me, something that had been buried for so long, wanted to give in. You're putting yourself in danger, Elena, I said hoarsely. If he finds out, he'll never stop. I know, she said softly, but I'm willing to take that risk, because I can't let you die. Not when she stopped, her words catching in her throat. My heart hammered in my chest. And for a moment, I could feel the pull between us, stronger than anything I had ever felt before. This woman, this sheriff's daughter, had the power to destroy me, but she also had the power to save me. Get out of here, I said, the words rough with emotion. I'll deal with this on my own. But Elena shook her head, her eyes fierce. No, I won't leave you. Not now. Not after everything. The first shot rang out in the distance. My heart lurched in my chest. The bounty hunters had arrived. Elena, I whispered urgently, go now. But she stood firm, her eyes never leaving mine. I'm not going anywhere. I'll fight for you. I'll fight with you. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one that had just broken inside the cabin, and as the second shot rang out, I knew we were both about to find out what it meant to fight not just for survival, but for something much more dangerous, love. The cabin was engulfed in chaos as the door crashed open. The wind howled outside, battering the wooden walls like a beast trying to break in. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the smell of gunpowder. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears. Olivia's voice rang out in the tension-filled silence. Firm and steady, despite the danger that hung around us, go. Riley, she shouted, her rifle aimed at the doorway. Her eyes fierce with determination. I'll cover you. I wanted to argue, to tell her to get down, to hide, but there was no time. The first bullet had already flown past us, and the air was thick with the promise of more. Olivia was right. There was no way out unless we fought, unless we ran. But the odds weren't in our favor. Bounty hunters and old enemies had come for us, and if we didn't act fast, we'd be dead before sunrise. I looked at her one last time, her face pale but resolute, the same woman who had been my lifeline. My reason for pushing forward in a world that had left me broken, she didn't flinch. Her hands were steady, her breath controlled. She was ready, and I knew I couldn't leave her behind. I returned fire, the gunshot ringing out in the confined space, deafening in the silence that followed. The men scattered, taking cover, but it didn't last long. They were professional killers, and they knew what they were doing. I moved quickly, trying to get a clear shot. But there was too much happening too fast. The storm outside raged harder, as if nature itself was waging war on us. The thunder shook the cabin, the rain pounding against the tin roof like 1,000 drumbeats. I could barely hear myself think over the chaos. I knew one thing. We couldn't stay here. Olivia, always calm, always in control, didn't hesitate. She took the rifle from my hand, steadying herself against the back wall, and fired again. One of the men fell a clean shot right through the chest. But before I could acknowledge her skill, a bullet whizzed past her, striking the wood beside her head. She flinched, but didn't move. "Olivia, move," I shouted, my voice thick with fear, but she stood her ground. Her eyes locked on the door. "I'm not leaving you," she said firmly. Her voice steady, even as the danger around us escalated. "Not now." I knew what she meant. We'd been running from our past for too long, trying to outrun the mistakes and regrets that had shaped us. But now, we were in this together. No more running. This was the moment. The one where we'd either live or die. I stepped back, trying to assess the situation, but I barely had time to breathe before the door burst open again. This time, more men stormed in, and the unmistakable face of Ralph Stone appeared in the doorway. I stiffened, my hand tightening around my revolver. Ralph was a name I knew well, a man who had crossed my path too many times. He was a relic from the Lincoln County War, a former ally turned rival, and he had a personal grudge against me that went deeper than most. "I thought I recognized you," Red Ralph said with a grin that sent a chill down my spine. "You're a hard man to kill, but I'll keep trying." Didn't wait for him to make his move. I fired, but he was already diving for cover, ducking behind a barrel. The cabin had become a battlefield, and I was out of time. Olivia had to be in danger, but she didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. She was right beside me, her rifle trained on the doorway, keeping the men from advancing. "Keep moving," I shouted, my voice tight with urgency. "We can't stay here. We need to get out." But Olivia wasn't listening. She fired again, taking down another of the men who had moved too far into the room. The others scattered, but I could see they were regrouping outside. It wasn't over yet. As I made my move toward the back door, I heard a grunt, a sharp intake of breath. I spun around to find Olivia on the floor, her arm bleeding where a bullet had grazed her. "Olivia," I shouted, rushing to her side, my heart hammering in my chest. She looked up at me, her face pale but determined. "I'm fine," she said, her voice strained. "Go. You have to get out." "No," I said through gritted teeth, my fingers trembling as I pressed against her wound. "I'm not leaving you behind." Her hand grabbed mine, her grip weak but firm. "You have to survive, Riley. You have to live. For both of us." I shook my head, my vision blurring with emotion. "I'm not leaving you." She reached up, cupping my cheek with her hand. Her touch was soft, tender, a lifeline in the midst of the chaos. "Please, Reed, you owe it to us. You owe it to yourself." And with that, I made my choice. I grabbed my gun and stood up, looking down at her one last time before stepping toward the door. My hand was steady now, my mind clear. I had nothing left to lose, and if I was going to survive, I had to end this once and for all. The showdown, the storm outside raged as I moved through the back door, my boots crunching on the wet ground. I could hear the horses thundering in the distance, their riders closing in. There was no way to outrun them, not now. But I was damn sure going to fight. I turned, pressing my back to the rough cabin wall, my gun ready. The first rider appeared, and I didn't hesitate. A single shot rang out, and the man fell from his horse. But the rest of the riders didn't stop. They charged forward, determined to finish what they started. I kept firing, but the rain was making it hard to see. The wind howling in my ears, and the world was spinning. The cabin was too close to the road, too exposed. We were outnumbered, outgunned. And the storm outside, as loud as it was, couldn't drown out the sound of the battle that had come for us. "Ralph," I shouted, seeing the man pushing forward through the chaos. "This ends now," he sneered, his gun drawn, and with a growl of frustration, he fired. The bullet grazed my shoulder, and I staggered back, the pain shooting through me like 1,000 knives. I forced myself to stand, my vision blurring, but I couldn't let go. Not now. Not with Olivia inside. The wind howled again, and the storm's fury seemed to match the rage in my chest. I fired once more, the shot echoing in the night, and Ralph Stone crumpled to the ground. It was over. The men were either dead or retreating, and I was left standing in the rain, gasping for breath, my body shaking from the pain and exhaustion. But the storm inside me hadn't passed yet. Escape and revelation, I stumbled back into the cabin. My vision blurred, but Olivia was there, her eyes wide with fear as she helped me sit. The blood from my shoulder stained my shirt, but I barely noticed it. I was too focused on the woman in front of me. "You're still here," I rasped, my voice hoarse. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, her eyes fierce. "Not without you." I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I thought I'd lost you." "Not yet," she whispered, a soft smile breaking through her worry. "Not now." We had one. For now. But the danger wasn't over. The law, the bounty hunters, they were still coming for us. We couldn't stay here. We had to leave. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't running alone. I didn't have to do this alone.